All right, let's dive into something really unique today. We're talking about Muammar Gaddafi's The Green Book.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
It is, right. It's his vision for like a utopian society
Mhm.
and tackles huge questions about politics,
Yeah,
economics, all that.
really makes you think.
Yeah, you might be surprised by some of the stuff in here,
Absolutely.
even if you disagree. It just makes you think differently
Yeah.
about how societies could be structured.
I think what's so fascinating about the Green Book is
Mm-hmm.
it's not just some like boring theory.
Right.
It's got this passion behind it, this real belief that things could be better,
Yeah.
even if the solutions are a bit out there, right?
Yeah, it definitely challenges a lot of assumptions. Like right away, Gaddafi goes after traditional democracy,
Oh,
like
yeah.
saying parliaments, political parties,
Uh-huh.
even class systems, they're all like dictatorial.
That's what he sees any system where a few people
Yeah.
represent the many as just fundamentally undemocratic.
Uh-huh.
It's like a betrayal, he thinks, no matter how it's dressed up.
So if all those are off the table, what's
Mm.
the alternative?
Well, he proposes this system of direct democracy.
Okay.
He calls them basic popular conferences,
Mm.
where citizens at a local level
Yeah.
get together, they make decisions themselves. Then from those conferences,
Yeah.
they select people's committees
Yeah.
to put those decisions into action.
So like imagine giant town hall meetings, but with actual power.
Exactly. A really radical shift from what we're used to.
Yeah, could that even work on a national level? Like practically.
That's the million-dollar question,
Right,
and one that Gaddafi doesn't totally answer.
right.
How do you make sure everyone's voice is heard?
Yeah.
All the different viewpoints.
Especially in a huge country.
Yeah, and the logistics of it all, coordinating everything.
Wouldn't it be like super time consuming for everyone too?
That's a concern. He seems to assume everyone's going to be super engaged, which might be unrealistic.
Yeah, could really bog things down.
Right. But it does make you think about how to make democracy more responsive to people.
For sure. And then he doesn't stop there. He even challenges the idea of written law.
Oh, yeah. He dismisses constitutions like they're just made up by people.
Right.
He thinks real law should come from tradition and religion.
Whoa. Okay.
Like those come from a higher source, so they can't be messed with as easily.
So instead of laws we write down, we'd follow like ancient customs or religious texts.
That's his argument.
But wouldn't that create a whole new set of problems, though? Like, what's tradition even mean? Religion can be interpreted so many ways.
Yeah, that's a good point.
How does he address that?
He doesn't fully explore that, unfortunately.
Hmm.
He kind of assumes everyone's on the same page culturally and religiously, which...
Right, that's rarely the case.
Right. But it's interesting that he sees tradition and religion as like sources of stability,
Yeah.
in a world that feels kind of chaotic.
I get that, people wanting that sense of grounding.
Yeah.
But it could also be used to justify some pretty backwards stuff, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's that tension between wanting stability
Right.
and also needing to change and progress.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to have a perfect answer for that.
No, but he definitely makes you think about it.
And the challenging doesn't stop there. He goes on to criticize the economic system, too,
That's right.
especially wages.
Yeah.
He even calls it a form of slavery.
Yeah, that's a strong statement.
Really powerful statement. So even a fair wage is exploitative, he's saying.
That's his argument. He thinks it creates this relationship where
Yeah.
one group profits off the work of another no matter what.
So even a fair wage is still taking advantage of someone, in his view.
That's how he sees it.
Wow, that's radical. What's the alternative then?
Well, he's advocating for a socialist system
Okay.
where producers are more like partners.
Mm-hmm.
They share directly in what they produce.
Okay.
No wages, no bosses. Everyone contributes. Everyone benefits equally.
Is there any real-world example of that? Something close to what he's describing?
It's hard to say. He's going beyond the usual co-op model, I think.
Right.
He breaks down production into three parts. The raw materials,
Okay.
the means of production, like the factories, tools, and then the producers themselves.
Gotcha.
He says profits should be split equally between these three.
So the factory itself would get a share of the profit.
Yeah, alongside the workers and the suppliers of the materials.
That's wild. How would that even work?
Well, that's where things get a bit unclear.
Yeah.
Would factories have, like, voting rights? How do you even calculate their share?
Right.
What about investments, risk? He doesn't really get into those details.
It's bold, for sure, trying to rethink how labor, capital, all that stuff works together.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of practical questions there. And he doesn't hold back on criticizing capitalism as a whole either, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the idea of getting rich, is that a problem for him?
Yeah, he sees accumulating wealth beyond your needs as basically stealing from society. He thinks the goal should be meeting everyone's needs, not making a ton of money.
So kind of a steady state economy focused on enough for everyone, not endless growth.
Exactly. It goes against a lot of what we're used to.
Yeah, definitely thought-provoking. Hard to imagine it in practice, but still makes you think.
That's Gaddafi for you.
And his critique of centralized control, it pops up again in an unexpected place. Education.
Oh, that's right.
We'll have to dig into that after a quick break.
So he thinks that standardized education, it kind of forces people into a mold, you know?
Right.
Instead of letting them follow their own path, their own passions.
It's like a buffet of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get to choose what interests you. Sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But how do you make sure people learn what they need to, to actually function in society?
Right. There's got to be a balance.
Right.
He doesn't give a step-by-step plan,
Okay.
but he throws out some interesting ideas.
Yeah.
Like learning should be more personal, more hands-on.
So less about memorizing facts.
Yeah, more about actually experiencing things, developing your talents.
I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
A lot of people are questioning traditional education these days.
Absolutely. He was ahead of his time in a way.
And he saw technology as key to this.
Yeah, like a way to democratize access to information.
Make learning available to everyone on their own terms.
Exactly.
But this distrust of central control, it goes beyond politics and education for Gaddafi. He even applies it to sports, which is kind of surprising.
Right. He wasn't a fan of professional sports.
Yeah, he thought it should be something everyone does.
Not just watching a few elite athletes.
It's funny, we celebrate these pros, but so many of us just sit and watch.
Right. He saw that as a distraction.
Really?
Yeah. A way to keep people passive,
Yeah.
not focused on important things.
Interesting take.
He thought playing sports could build community,
Yeah.
improve well-being, even lead to social change.
So sports as a tool for empowerment, almost.
That's the idea.
Fascinating. Okay, let's talk about something that might be a bit controversial. Gaddafi's view on nationalism. He puts a lot of emphasis on national identity.
Yeah, like a sense of belonging to a group, a nation.
Right.
He saw that as really important for people, for their well-being.
But isn't nationalism often seen as, divisive, leading to conflict between nations?
Yeah, but he saw it as a way to preserve culture, resist this global homogenization.
So not about one nation being superior to others.
Right, more about protecting what makes each nation unique. He thought strong national identities could actually help cooperation between countries.
Interesting, like a more balanced world order.
Yeah, where everyone respects each other's differences.
Definitely a different perspective on nationalism. Okay, another area where Gaddafi's views might raise some eyebrows is his take on women's roles in society.
Oh, yeah, he had some very traditional ideas about that.
Definitely traditional. He really emphasized motherhood and family as central to women's lives.
He saw it as a natural role, one that should be valued and protected.
I get the historical context, but even then,
Yeah.
it seems pretty limiting, doesn't it? How does that fit with his idea of a just society?
It's a good question, and it shows how complex his thinking was.
Right.
He definitely valued women, their contributions, but he saw those contributions within a very specific sphere.
He even criticizes modern societies for, pushing women into roles that go against what he saw as their natural duties.
Yeah, he felt that workplaces, mostly designed by men,
Right.
they force women to deny their femininity, their maternal instincts.
So was he saying women shouldn't work outside the home?
He doesn't say that directly,
Okay.
but he definitely idealizes this traditional setup.
The man works, the woman stays home with the kids.
Yeah, anything else is a sign of things falling apart. For him.
That definitely goes against the idea of women having equal opportunities.
Yeah, like in education, work, politics.
But even with these traditional views, he makes some interesting points about how capitalism affects women.
Oh, absolutely.
What was his take on that?
Well, he thought capitalism only cared about women as workers.
Like cogs in the machine.
Yeah, not as individuals with their own unique qualities.
So it reduces them to their economic output.
That's it.
And he saw that as undermining their role as mothers and caretakers.
Exactly, which he thought weakens society as a whole.
So he's connecting his critique of capitalism to his ideas about gender roles.
Yeah, he saw capitalism as breaking down families, those traditional structures.
Really makes you think, even if you don't agree with the conclusions.
It's a unique perspective.
Now, Gaddafi doesn't just critique things, he also makes some pretty bold predictions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he says black people will eventually become the dominant global force.
A powerful statement.
What's his reasoning there? Is he talking about a violent takeover or something else?
No, it's more about demographics and social factors.
Okay.
He saw black people as having these strong families, strong communities, and higher birth rates than other groups.
He thought that would naturally lead them to a position of power.
So not about revenge or anything like that.
Right, more about a natural shift in the balance of power.
Like a more equitable world order led by black people.
Yeah, he also pointed to history, how empires rise and fall.
Yeah.
It's like it's just their turn, in his view.
Definitely a different take on race and power. It does make you wonder how these big trends will play out in the future.
Yeah, who knows what the future holds.
Okay, we've covered a lot here.
We have.
From Gaddafi's radical democracy to his views on women, capitalism, all that. So big picture, what do you think of the Green Book? Strengths, weaknesses.
It's a book that really makes you think, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It challenges a lot of assumptions about how societies work, how power is distributed.
Right.
It's got unique perspectives on all these different issues, from politics to, like, personal relationships. But we've got to remember, it's a product of its time.
What do you mean?
Well, his experiences, the culture he came from, those shaped his views.
So we can't just take everything at face value.
We have to read it critically, keep the context in mind.
Exactly.
It's not a perfect book, lots to disagree with.
For sure.
But even if we reject some of it, it's a really valuable exercise, you know?
It is.
Makes us think about what kind of world we want.
Yeah, and how to get there.
Okay, before we wrap up, one last thought. Gaddafi was really critical of formal education, right?
Yeah, he thought it stifled creativity, discouraged independent thinking.
But he wasn't just about tearing it down.
Right.
He had some ideas for a different approach.
Yeah, more personalized, learner-centered.
So instead of the same curriculum for everyone, you choose what you're passionate about, what interests you.
Exactly.
A lot of educators are pushing for that kind of thing today.
It's fascinating how some of his ideas are becoming more mainstream.
It speaks to his critique of central control and this focus on empowering individuals. He applied that to sports too, remember, making it participatory for everyone.
He wanted to see that power, that control, spread out more evenly.
Yeah, he saw himself as fighting against these elites in all areas of life.
Whether it's politicians, capitalists, whoever holds the reins.
His vision, it's utopian for sure.
It is.
But it raises good questions about how to build a more just and balanced world.
That's the heart of it, I think.
In the end, the Green Book is all about radical equality. Everyone having an equal say, an equal share, an equal chance at happiness.
It's both inspiring and challenging.
Yeah, it really sticks with you.
It does.
People are still debating it today.
And that's a good thing, right?
It is. Even if we disagree with him, it makes us think critically about these big issues. And that's what this deep dive was all about.
Yeah, getting people thinking.
This was just a taste, though.
A starting point.
There's so much more to explore in the Green Book.
It's a book that rewards you for really digging deep.
We want to hear from you. What stood out to you? What made you rethink things?
What other models could we build on Gaddafi's principles?
Even if we disagree with his solutions, does it make us question how power works, how wealth is distributed, the role of the individual?
Big questions.
It's not about easy answers.
No.
It's about starting a conversation.
Yeah, about the kind of world we want to create.
And that's a conversation worth having.
Yeah, it really stays with you, doesn't it?
It does, even if you don't agree with everything.
Right.
It forces you to kind of rethink your own beliefs
For sure.
about power, society, what kind of world we want, all that.
And it's not just like pie in the sky thinking either.
Right.
He gives some real examples, ways to put these ideas into action.
Like his critique of education, it wasn't just tearing it down.
Yeah.
He actually had ideas for something different.
He really wanted a system where you could choose what to study, you know,
Yeah.
based on what you love, what you're interested in.
Not just following this one set path for everyone.
Exactly. And you see a lot of educators pushing for that today.
It's pretty cool how some of these ideas that seemed radical back then are actually gaining ground now.
It's like he was ahead of his time.
It shows how powerful that critique of central control is.
And how important it is to empower individuals.
Yeah, he was all about that, right?
All about it.
And it wasn't just education, he applied it to sports too, right?
Yeah, he really wanted sports to be for everyone.
Not just these professional spectacles.
Right, a truly participatory activity.
There's a real consistency there, isn't there?
Totally, it's like a thread through all his thinking.
He just didn't trust any system that gave too much power to a small group.
Like concentrating power in the hands of a few was always a problem for him.
Whether it's politics, economics, even social stuff.
He was always pushing back against that.
He really saw himself as a champion of the people.
Right, like he was fighting for them.
Against these elites, these gatekeepers.
Whoever had that control, he wanted to challenge it.
It's a utopian vision, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But it raises important questions.
It does.
About fairness, about justice, how to create a better world.
That's what makes it so compelling.
Ultimately, the Green Book is all about this radical equality.
Yeah, that's the core of it.
Everyone having an equal say, an equal share, a real chance at happiness.
Is a powerful idea.
Inspiring, but definitely challenging, too.
You can't just read it and forget about it.
It stays with you, it makes you think.
And that's why people are still talking about it today.
Exactly. Decades later, it still sparks debate.
That's a good thing, even if we disagree with parts of it.
It forces us to grapple with these big questions.
To think about how we want to live, how we want society to be.
And that's what this deep dive has been all about, right?
Yeah, getting people engaged, getting them thinking critically.
This was just a starting point, though.
Just a taste.
There's so much more in the Green Book.
So much depth, so much to explore.
We hope this sparked your curiosity.
Yeah, we'd love for you to keep digging.
Pick up a copy, read it for yourself, see what you think.
What resonates with you? What challenges your own views?
You know, even if we don't agree with all of Gaddafi's answers,
Right.
he asks the right questions, doesn't he?
He does. About power, about wealth, about our place in the world.
That's what makes the Green Book so valuable.
It's not about easy answers.
It's about starting a conversation.
And keeping that conversation going.
That's what matters.